Welcome to the New Lead Order podcast. I'm Marjorie Bostwick Phoenix. I'm a leadership evolution architect for corporate and entrepreneurial women in that threshold moment of their life. These are women who are ready to break the rules and lead, live, and love outside of the box. In this space, we explore through conversation with powerhouse women how they are paving the way into this new world order that is upon us. This is the New Lead Order. In today's episode, you will hear from Rakita Lillard-Brown. Rakita is a builder, but not in the way the word usually gets used. She builds from the pieces of her life: grief, faith, and love. And what she's built is what this conversation is about. In this season finale of the New Lead Order podcast, this one lands deeply personal for me as a love letter to Black women. You will leave this conversation asking yourself, if what you're building is not being built from love, then what are you building it from? This is the work of remembering who you are before the world told you who to be. Enjoy this episode, and we'll see you in September. Right. Welcome, Rakita, to the New Lead Order podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Certainly. I've been looking forward to this conversation and having you here as the final guest for the season. I think it's just perfect. I want to start talking a little bit about your origin story, because I think that part is so important to help people understand what helped shape who you are today, right?
Yep.
So what did life look like for you before you became this woman that started building retreats for Black women and really doing research and study around Black women? What was going on in your life before that?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I never know what's the right entry point, right? Because I think that your life, right, from beginning to whatever stage really shapes who you are as an adult. So it's a little tricky, but I think the best start, I would say, is I had a catering and events company before what Holistree is now. And I think that's a really important piece because I come from a family of hospitality, Southern women. We love being in community. My grandmother fed the entire neighborhood. You know, if you run into anyone who knew her, that's usually the first thing they say to you is like, "Oh, your grandma fed me this. It was this," right? And so that was always instilled in me. I couldn't, there is no like exact moment or point because that's just been across the board, right? To serve, to be in community. And it was always around food, right? Because food is universal. Everybody got to eat. And when you put people in a room at a table with good food, there's connection and there's really beautiful things that happen. And that is what I come from. You know, I very vividly can remember being a child, sitting on the banister, watching the adults have a party, eat good food, share stories. And I was always a part of that. And so in my 20s, I started a catering company because it just made sense. I've always cooked. I've cooked since I was probably 10 or 12, right? Like I'm in the kitchen. And in that catering company, I think I have fed over the years at around somewhere between 10 to 20,000 people. Have had that's one of my most proud things to say is like that amount of people has had food that I literally have laid my hands on, and I attribute that to my grandmother. And so I've always been in business. I've always been feeding people, whether it is literally feeding them or feeding their hearts and minds. It didn't really shift into what it is now until I had, I don't know if it was a midlife crisis. I don't really think that's what it was because I was still in my 20s. So can it really be a midlife anything, right? My mom had two strokes and a heart attack when I turned 27. Actually, about a week before my 27th birthday. And that changed my life. I remember it was like having a good conversation with your mom on the phone 1 minute, and in a split second, my entire life changed. I can still close my eyes and see that exact moment that it changed. I remember our conversation before it changed. And her being sick, I think shifted something in me around how we love and care for Black women, period, right? Your mama, your grandma is like those first women you love. And because the reason she ended up having the strokes and the heart attack was really around a very common story that we have, right? Which is that we tend to work ourselves to death. We push ourselves to a point that even if we're in pain, or we might even get early signs that something is wrong, and we ignore it and we just push through. And I watched what happens when you ignore that. And so, like I said, when I was 27, she had that first stroke and heart attack and had to, luckily, by the grace of God, came through it, but really had to rebuild her life. And that was the time that I was like, I don't want to be like that. The catering, the hospitality industry is hard. If you Google, there's tons of research around chefs, anyone in hospitality being depressed, stressed out, the health is on a decline. There are high rates of suicide for chefs. And I had days where, we were working 48, 72 hours straight, and my body just was like, Rakita, you cannot do this. There were moments that I could not even get out of my car in less than 20 steps to my front door to even get into the house because I was just so tired. And after my mom had her stroke and having those things happen to me, I realized that something needed to change. And I always tell people this, it's also divine alignment and timing, because you get little nudges when you need to make shifts and change, and we sometimes ignore them, right? So there were moments that I had those little nudges and I ignored them, and I kept pushing, and I said, no, this is what I'm supposed to do, right? I'm sticking to this business. I'm sticking to this piece. And that year, all of our clients decided they didn't want to renew their contracts. It was very strange. It was like, we're not renewing our contracts. These were clients we had for years. We're not renewing our contracts. No new events were coming in. My business partner at the time fell in love and wanted to start her life. And so we were dissolving the business, and all of these things were happening. And I was like, what is going on? It was just one of those moments where it's like, man, I thought I was doing everything right. I thought I was being obedient, and it's falling apart. And my mentor at the time, I was sitting at her kitchen table, boo-hoo crying, because I thought I was doing what I was supposed to be doing, and I didn't know where to turn next. And she reminded me that I said a few months ago that I wanted to move to Puerto Rico. And at the time I was like, I can't move. My business is failing. I don't have any partnerships. What are you talking about? And she lovingly was like, you're in that state of panic right now, so you can't hear it. You can't hear the message. But I promise you there's an answer in this. And so take your time, go home, pray, think it over. And I did that. And when I woke up in the morning, I think the prayer was something like, okay, God, I don't have nothing left. So if this is what you're trying to tell me, if I'm supposed to move, if I'm supposed to pivot in my business, you have to make the way, because at this point, I don't have anything left. And the next morning, I kid you not, I got an email from two clients who the contracts were large enough that it would have given me enough money to move. But then, I'm a Taurus. I'm stubborn. And so I was like, okay, but I still need XYZ, right? Trying to make all the excuses. And it was my sister who reminded me that she said, "You're always telling me to follow my dreams and to trust that you're always covered. Why don't you just buy the ticket and go?" And she was young at the time. I love her. She's one of my best friends. And it was one of those things of someone putting the mirror in front of you, right? It was a beautiful lesson because one, my baby sister was listening to me. So I was like, wow, I've instilled some great wisdom into her. And also, sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need someone to repeat it back to you. So I bought the ticket and I left. I sold all of my things, packed up, moved, and I didn't have a plan at the time. And a friend came to see me and she said, "You have such a beautiful space here. Have you ever thought about doing retreats?" And I was like, retreats? I said, you mean that thing, white women go on for a yoga? Like, I'm not a yoga instructor. I'm not really. And she's like, I think you would be great at it. You already are in hospitality. You love to cook. You have this beautiful space. Again, right? Another mirror in front of me, another moment of reminding me of this was the new path. And at the time when you Googled retreats, you did not see us. The pictures that would come up were not of us. So I really was building it from a space of I had absolutely no idea what it was. I just put a call out on Facebook, mind you, and said, "Who wants to come visit me in my new place? I live across the street from the beach. Eat good food. Come lay out." And that's how it started. And 5 women said yes. And they came and it was so beautiful and so seamless in quotation marks for me because I'm used to event planning, I'm used to production, I'm used to hospitality. There were some kinks along the way, but they got worked out, and the guest loved the experience. And I knew then that I was on to something bigger than the catering, bigger than the weddings and the galas and all of those things. This felt the most like me, to be able to have a space, to do it how I wanted to do it, and to hold a room in the way that I knew I really wanted to do. And I wanted to offer what I was going through at the time. I wanted to offer other women that opportunity because I really do look at it as it was an honor and a privilege. Not everyone can sell their business or pack up their things and move on faith on all of these things. I recognize the privilege in me being able to do that. And when I got there, I was able to let go. Some days I cried and didn't get dressed, didn't do my hair, didn't do anything. And it was really a beautiful healing thing. And I wanted other women to at least have the opportunity to do that. And so that's how we got to where we are now. I mean, they have grown exponentially in experiences and what we offer, but that really was the beginning of it. The shift for me of knowing, right? Like, oh, all of the things that I wish my mom had, to be able to rest and to know that you don't have to work yourself to death is here. The proof is here. The magic is here. And so, we've just grown from there, from 5 women to our largest retreat was 18 women. Um, and from
Wow.
going from, Puerto Rico to, international, right? Like so it has just
Yeah.
grown over time, but it is an
Yeah.
example of what happens when you really do say, okay, I'm going to let go and I'm going to follow
Yeah.
whatever it is I'm
Right.
supposed to do.
What you're feeling right now, right?
Mhm.
Following that inner knowing, this instinct, something is telling you, yes, you can continue along, continue doing this. And
Yep.
that's the thing that we have to be able to get in touch with.
Yeah.
I want to just go back to what you were saying because there's so much in there. It's beautiful, such a beautiful story because you obviously came from a lineage where where your mother, your grandmother, like they gathered people,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they gathered around food
Mm-hmm.
and socializing. And you know how we do,
Yep.
right? When
Mm-hmm.
there's food involved, there's fun involved. There's
Yep.
just socializing involved, right? So you had that in you already, and it's in when you are a person that does that and enjoys, when you enjoy feeding people, you
Mm-hmm.
are a people person,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But you've now taken it a step further than moving from feeding with food. You're feeding in
Mm-hmm.
such a different way now,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
You're feeding Black women with something that that they need.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I want to go into now, because someone came to you and said, well, hey, why don't you do this? Right. And so, it wasn't that you were looking at what are the markets saying?
Mm-hmm.
What is the system saying? What do we need right now? Right.
Yeah.
You sort of followed this thread,
Mm-hmm.
and then it automatically clicked and you filled a gap. Right.
Yeah.
So um, was there at any time that you were looking at this and thinking, and I'm sure there probably might have been, but I'm not going to assume that this is not going to be sustainable, that you build it and women won't come, that, there won't be enough women to
Mm-hmm.
partake in this, to make this something that is viable for you, right?
Yep.
And if when you had those doubts and that sort of mindset, like what did you really do to sort of just keep moving through it anyway?
Yeah. Listen, Holistree is 10 years old this year. Every single retreat, I feel that. Every time. Every time I'm like, oh, are people gonna want this? Are we gonna feel it? Is this gonna be every single time? And I think that's important to make note of, because I think in business, sometimes we forget that, right? Like, there's always a level of hesitation at some degree. You're always going to pause. It's what you do with that, right? And so I think I've just getting to this point of learning to pivot and also letting go, because not every retreat we plan does happen. And I don't look at it as a failure on our part. We have really beautiful systems in place. They're fine tuned every single year. I think this year is the best year in terms of systems and back end things. I really just look at it as like it just wasn't the right moment or season, and that doesn't always have anything directly to do with me. I think a part of this is you learn that in hospitality, especially in like the wedding industry, right? Like you put out these bids, and it sometimes you don't win them, right? And you can easily go into a space of, oh my God, it's me. They don't like me. They don't. So I learned at a very early time in business to kind of move through that feeling of I have to take my emotion out of it. and and so the questions really do become like, okay, well, what is happening climate wise, right? What is the messaging? Is it the right season? Maybe we need to just pivot and go someplace else. And so that's really what I do in those moments. And whether it's one woman or 20, you're going to get the same energy from me, because it's less about the numbers, the number of people. I don't ever want to be the retreat experience that has 50 attendees on a retreat. I think that's great for people who do that, but for us, it's not. That's never my intention, because this is soul work, which sounds cliche a little bit, but it really is. The level of care and intention that we give each woman individually as well as a full group, it does require a lot. And so I'm clear about my own boundaries, and I'm really clear about who we serve, how we serve, and every retreat allows me the opportunity to fine tune that. And so I don't really look at it as like, oh, we failed or it's not sustainable. Because we have other things, right? I also know in business, events are not, it's not sustainable. You cannot be an event heavy business, at least for us and what we do. And so we have other things in place that kind of supplement that. And I think that's the business side of it, of understanding, right? Like retreats are seasonal, events are seasonal. What are the other things that we offer? Because we are community based, we just create other things that do then become the sustainable piece of the business. And that's
Mhm.
completely separate.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Listen, sometimes less is more. And I'm coming to realize that, right? Because you can go places that you can't when you have like a larger group.
Mhm.
And so, especially for what you're offering, again, feeding the soul, sometimes a nice, small, intimate group is
Yep.
really the perfect recipe for that. This seems like the perfect place to pause and just ask you, have you ever wanted to be in a room of women where you were completely seen, heard, and held at every level? And a room where the wisdom is present, the ideas are flowing, and the trust is real, and the conversations go places that most rooms never dare to go. I'm talking about a space where women are evolved, resourced, and building together. That's what the Feminati provides. It's a sovereign order that operates like an incubator for women who are done building someone else's blueprints and ready to build their own. The Feminati is designed around five things. One, access to high level vetted teachers and experts who come in on a monthly basis to deepen every member's knowledge base. Two, you're operating in a cooperative economy where members spend, hire, invest within the network first. So we're circulating our resources and our revenue and our opportunities among each other. Three, a collective fund seeded by that cooperative economy. And that fund will be deployed to build bold ideas outside of the system that benefit the members and our community. And then you're also in a network of a pair of women who are operating at the same altitude, because when one woman rises, so does another. And then there is the dangerous collective imagination that happens as a strategic resource. This is a space where you bring your boldest ideas and not your safest, where you're prototyping new systems and new ways of being, new leadership, new ways of living and loving and relationships, new structures in real time with other women doing the same. There is nothing like this out there. The doors open on June the 9th, and I'm currently accepting applications for founding members, a select group of women, because what happens inside the room depends entirely on who's inside it. So if anything that you just heard sparked something in you, I want you to click on the interest form that's going to be linked below in the show notes. Fill it out and let's have a conversation, not a sales call, just a conversation to answer any questions that you might have and give you all the details. Now, let's get back to this amazing conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, I learned that our cutoff is that 18 to 20. That
Mhm.
and honestly, I think that's the other piece of this is that I really want people to know what goes into the back end of creating these
Yeah.
experiences, because I think that it is not the attendees' job to know, like they don't need to know that, right? Because their job is to just show up and feel good. That's all we require of
Mhm.
them. There's a lot that goes into that. We look at every single attendee. We check things like what's their favorite color? Is their birthday coming up? Did they have something that they want to celebrate? Because then we want to have something for them that honors that. We ask questions of our retreaters. I want to know their restrictions. I want to know if they have any trauma that we need to be mindful of, because we have moments that are like group sessions, sometimes I will offer one-on-ones depending on the size, but I also need to know these things because I'm paying attention to how each woman walks through our door, right? Like I can look at our space and I can see who maybe is a little bit more reserved, who needs more alone time, who's very like outgoing. I can do that with 20 women. I can't when it's larger than that, we have to also grow our team even more. And I just and maybe in a few years, I don't know. I don't think so, but I think that I really love how we create the experiences for the women at this level. There's just way too much that goes into it to have to do that for 50 women.
Right.
At that point,
Right.
it's a conference, right? It's a summit. It's
Right.
not a it's not a
Which you,
retreat.
that you can find anywhere.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, this is a unique experience for a
Hmm.
particular group of people,
Yep.
and that's what makes it so special. I can't wait to experience my first
Yeah.
retreat with you guys. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I want to talk about something that you also mentioned in the beginning, and you said this, and I found myself saying this so many times over the past several years is, you know, I did all the right things,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
I did all the right things. I followed the path or the blueprint that was said, this is the thing
Hmm.
that will get you to your success,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And I know that there's probably a lot of women listening to this right now that same thing. We got the degrees, we've got the years of experience, we've done all the things, we've been climbing the ladders, and um, we have been building from a blueprint, a vision of a blueprint that was never meant for us.
Hmm.
Um, you built something that I feel that is unique, and I call it, outside of this fishbowl that we all have been swimming in, right? Like I'm excited for my opportunity to build something as well outside of this fishbowl with the feminati, the same thing, right? Like women deserve to choose where and how and what they build,
Yep.
right? But we know stepping outside of that fishbowl, when we say, no, I'm going to go this route,
Hmm.
there's a cost, right?
Hmm.
Um, and we sometimes don't name it because we're afraid that if we talk about the cost of building outside of this system and this fishbowl, that other women might become afraid and say, okay, I don't want to deal with that, right?
Yep.
It's easier to just stay swimming in this fishbowl.
Hmm.
So share that for us. Name that for us. Was there a cost? What did it cost you emotionally, spiritually, to trust what you felt
Yeah.
and what it has given back to you? Because there is a cost, but there's also something that you receive as well.
Yeah. Who the cost? Y- Yes, there's absolutely a cost. I think the cost for me has been delaying having a family, starting a family, um, because I've had to be in the business all the time for it to run the way that I think or the way that I thought it should run. So it did cost me that. I had to negotiate that with myself because for as long as I could remember, I think I'm one of those women that like when I realized that women have babies, I was like I want that. I want to have babies. I want to be a mother. And so but I knew that the way that we was running the business, that would cost me. I would have to delay that. Um and I did struggle with that for a little bit, but I think I'm at a point now where when people say like, what's for you doesn't miss you, I really do believe that. And so I'm hesitant when I say like, what did it cost me? Because I don't know at this point. I don't know if it was necessarily a cost, right? I think that it just was one of those lessons in that space of acceptance that I had to get to. You know, I have spent hours, days, years, a lot of money pouring into this business. But when I stop and reflect and really like say like, okay, Rakita, what is true, right? Like take the emotion out of it. What is true? I have never wanted for anything. My family is well taken care of. The business is 10 years old. We have been in this business for 10 years, right? And so I don't know if I could say if it necessarily cost me anything. I still plan on having a baby. I am now to a point where I can confidently and comfortably step away from the business and it still run, and I can focus on having a baby. When I look at it, right, I'm like, okay, realistically, Rakita, you could have had a baby a few years ago, but that would not have been the right time. The way that I want to have my family, the way that I want to be present in my children's life, the way that I want to spend with family, period. I would not have been able to do that years ago. And so I see that now. I understand the delay. I understand the no, all of that. Um, so yeah, when I don't know, I think I have to think about that word cost, right? And because I don't want it to necessarily mean a negative thing, because it didn't deplete anything per se. I think it has
Yeah.
added to my life.
Yeah, no, no, no. That's fair. I like that because it really makes me think as well about my own experience in, in 2024, like losing my job and, you know, building something that I knew I shouldn't have been building, right? But over the time, like what I put into it, I was thinking, oh my gosh, it's costing me, this, and it's costing me that. And but as time went on, now I look back and I see, oh, that really was the gift. That
Yeah,
really was the lesson. It felt like a cost at the time,
yeah, yeah,
right? But it was really meant to sort of help to scaffold as as you're moving through the process.
yeah.
So I like that because we can sort of start to reframe
Mm-hmm.
how we're looking at what we think might be a negative,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I as I was talking it through, I love that you asked that question, because we have been talking about that a lot, right? Like what has it cost? And I really do want to encourage people to not look at cost as a negative thing, right? I Because also in this, if you get to a point where you can look back and say, what does it cost? Let's say that it went a different route, right? There's no guarantee that you would be who you are in this moment if those things didn't take place, right? Like, and even when I think about it a little bit deeper, right, I would say the cost could have been, the biggest cost is the time not spent with family, right? It's not spent with my mom. But also, if I weren't in the position that I'm in now, the year that my mom, the year leading up to my mom passing, I would not have been able to take care of her the way that I did. I would not have been able to sit at her bedside till the very end. I would not have been able to do any of that. And so, yes, did I lose some time with her when she was able, but also, right, if I had chose a different path, I don't know, I can't confidently say that I would have been able to do what I was able to do up till the end. So I think it's a tricky question, right? Because it's a gamble, right? It's like, okay, it did cost these things, but if I went a different route, would I still be who I am right now? And I really do love who I am right now.
That is the most important thing. That
Yeah,
is the most
yeah,
important thing. Do you love who you are in this moment?
yeah,
You know? Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. So that brings us to the beautiful work that you're doing, right? I want to talk about this at the table,
yeah, yeah.
right? The research around that, the conversation initiative, the curated cohort,
Mhm.
centering Black women in leadership, which I'm so proud to have participated in and be a part of, and in any way you choose to invite me in. But share with us, about building that and why that matters right now.
Yeah. It's so funny. I thank you for asking this because I also want to acknowledge that you asking questions is also a part of the story, right? Because it pushes me to share more, which is really what we have to do with this initiative. At the table started as this very small idea. I kept being in rooms, whether they were like virtual rooms or in these networking events or gatherings, and I kept hearing stories from Black women about what they were experiencing right now in this season, um, from things of like losing their job or just the way that they have been treated on their job, even things from business owners, private practices. I mean, the storyline was so similar, right? It's like, oh, I need more. I need support. I don't know what kind of support I need outside of money, but I know that I needed this, right? I haven't been valued. And it made me so sad because we talk about the sweet life. That is a part of the Holistree brand. Like, I talk about the sweet life all the time, whatever that means for you. And I'm like, man, how come more women are not confidently seeing that sweetness is always available to you, even when it's chaos? What is Holistree going to do? What am I going to do? And so I just come from a Chamber of Commerce networking event, and I was at the table and I had overheard a conversation of a woman who had just got let go of her job, and she, was saying, I don't know what I'm going to do next, but I'm going to start this business. I'm going to do these things. I was driving in a car and I said, well, God, it's one of those conversations again. I said, what are we going to do? Offering retreats is nice. Offering events are nice. Offering the society, great. But I never want money to be the reason that we don't get what we need. So what is my part in this on that side of it? And I had another thought, is that message of, well, why don't you gather women and have the conversation? Why don't you just ask them, right? Because we see all the time the statistics, the reports, but I'm like, do we really ask? Is this from their mouths what they actually want? And so I said, okay, well, I'll do a little convening of a group of Black women, and I'll just ask certain questions. The question around, what did it cost you to get where you are today? Questions around, what does it really look like? What is it that you think we need to feel sweet, to thrive, whether it is this economy or not, right? Just period. And then let's build this blueprint. That's how it just started, as that. I was just going to do a little convening. That was it. However, God said no, bigger. I was like, okay. And I was like, what are we going to do with this data? We can't just sit around the table and have a conversation. We could, but like, what do we do with that? Let's make a report. My background is in social justice organizing. So, I know how to do this work. I know how to organize. I know how to synthesize data. I know how to bring us together. So it's like, let's do this report. But if we create a report, we need more than just the women in this room. I don't want anyone to look at this report and say, you only talked to 30 women. What does that really prove? And so we decided to develop the survey, which is a public survey to Black women in leadership. And I think we need to have more conversations around what does it mean in leadership, because I don't want Black women to cancel themselves out if they see the word leadership. They're like, oh, that's not me, right? Because they're thinking about a title. And that's not necessarily it. Black women are always leaders in any shape or form. So it doesn't cancel you out because you don't have that title. Our goal is to capture 1,000 voices in this survey. It is a short survey, but the depth of it, I think, requires a little bit more than the 8 minutes that we say it takes, because you really do have to answer the questions honestly. And again, God said, nope, bigger. And so I was like, okay, well, we have these voices, we have these convening of women who dive deeper into the questions, but we need a 360 full perspective. So let's also ask organizations and companies, right? Because we should consider and hear from them too. Questions around, how do you decide, what are the factors that you factor in when you're trying to decide what you're offering Black women to thrive? So they also have their version of a survey. From these 2 surveys and the convening, we will synthesize all of that data and create the report. That will be a national report that goes out to the world. It will be on the tables of decision makers. It will be out so that you cannot say you didn't know, so that you cannot say you heard us say from our mouths, this is what we need. This is the blueprint for creating that. And what will come from that based off of the data will be, actually, I just started telling people this, so you're actually one of the very first to know this piece of it. We will be starting the fund. And as of yesterday, actually, we named it. It will be named after my mom, so it'll be Marie's Fund. The fund will, based off of the data, right? If the data undeniably says that Black women need finance, capital, this fund will be able to offer that. If it's research, education, mental health support, all of these things, the fund will be used to contribute to the need of Black women. And the reason that I'm calling it Marie's Fund is because I wholeheartedly believe that if my mom had the support, the proper support and resources available to her, she would still be here. Or at least she would have been in a different state, mentally, physically, when she passed, right? I wholeheartedly believe that. There's some things around that, right? Because women are complicated and layered, and so, but at least it would have been available. And so that is my goal in this, is that at the end of this summer, we will have this dinner that will honor the women that have contributed to the data, and we will announce Marie's Fund and what it could be used for. And that's the sustainable piece that we kind of talked about and touched in the beginning, right? We have the business for-profit side of events and retreats and society and all of those things. But this is more about legacy for me. And, what am I leaving beyond the retreat? The retreats are beautiful. Listen, I'm not going to lie. They are beautiful. But I wanted something a little bit more. And so my hope, my vision is that Marie's Fund outlasts us all, and it turns into this beautiful, thriving fund that over the years can confidently say it has supported Black women in ways that we had no idea. So what started as that little conversation in the car after the Chamber of Commerce Network has now turned into, oh, we are starting this fund. And yeah, I'm really excited about it. I'm also scared out of my mind, which is how I know it's going to be successful. Because if you're not a little scared about a project, what are you doing? So, yeah.
So, this work is so important.
Yeah.
It's so needed. And it's not just because Black women have really been through it this past year and a half. Okay. It's not even just about the the high numbers of unemployment that has happened, right? It's something more than that, because I've been saying this from the very beginning. As more and more women, Black women, were finding themselves unemployed and trying to figure out what's the next step.
Mhm.
And I know not everyone is going to start a business. Not
Right.
everyone wants to start a
Yep.
business. But my thinking was, why would you jump back into that fishbowl?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
You know, and you know the sharks are swimming. You already know, right? You're not going to last long. So what does the next step look like for you? How do you build
Yeah.
a life? How do you build a business, a career, right? That is not within that fishbowl. So
Yeah.
that has been the question that I have been asking with all of this that I'm seeing. And I think a lot of us have been coming to those moments where we're seeing and hearing conversations and we're being a part of it, that shows that something is needed here. And now you're doing the work of really getting into, okay, let's find out, where does the data oh, I love data work.
Yeah.
That stuff excites me, because when you see the big picture laid out, now you can figure out, okay, now how do we solve this? What
Yep.
is the solution? So
Yeah.
my work going forward in all of this has been, how do we create lives and businesses and careers outside of this system,
Yeah.
right?
And you honestly, you know what? Someone said this to me years ago, because my family is they're all business owners. So that has just always been a thing for me. But someone said to me, she said, "You know, Rakita, not everybody wants to own a business."
That's right. That's right. That's
And
right.
at the time, I was offended because I
Right.
was young and I was like, I didn't know no better. But honestly, when I think about it, I'm like, you're right, actually. I get it, because some days I'm like, why, Rakita? Why?
Right.
Throw it away. Throw it away.
Really, it really takes some grit and understanding to go at it on your own, you know?
Yeah,
And there's some
yeah,
of us, we just don't want to answer to nobody.
yeah. And I have tried. I have tried, and every single time I'm like, Rakita, you know better. You know that you should not be in this office with these people, because one, it's not the environment that you love, and you know, I want to create a space for my team that feels good and we feel valued beyond the
Yeah.
work, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
I have been able to create teams, and I've been a part of teams that do that, so I know that it is possible. And for those women there, and you know, there's nothing wrong with the women who want to stay in the space, but I think the difference is, what I think we serve as people who think you should be out of the fishbowl and create this thing. And what I think this report will also do, we still need those women in those spaces, because they are going to be the leaders and the spokeswomen
Exactly.
for
Yes.
the change.
That's it.
You
That's
know,
it.
it is going to
Yeah.
require a lot. It's going to require so much on both
Yeah.
sides of it. And
Most
so there's
definitely.
value in that, of
Yeah, yeah. And for what you do with the retreats as well, you are um, helping women to be able to navigate those spaces, right? And I
yep.
think that's it. It shouldn't just be that we just white knuckling it and being all
Hmm.
resilient and strong. I think that moving forward, there is a way that we can navigate those spaces and still keep our dignity
Yeah.
about us, right?
Absolutely. Some of
Yeah.
actually, not some. The majority of the women that attend our retreats, we help them get their jobs to pay for it, as a part of their professional development and wellness
Yeah.
support. That is the
Yeah.
other part of Holistree. The corporate wellness side is the side that goes into these businesses, and we're like, listen, your benefits packages, like, you need to have this layer, right? Like, where is your, what is the, you most companies set aside a pot of money for health benefits, right? But outside of that, the argument around what you can offer your staff that's not just medical benefits, dental, vision, something beyond that is really what keeps people in their jobs, right? Because if
That's right.
I am a
That's
part
right.
of a job that, oh, they really thought beyond medical care for me, they are offering me a stipend or money towards my professional development, and I don't mean just going back to school and getting another degree. That is huge. I would stay with a company forever if I knew that every year they
Yes.
gave
Yeah.
me $2,000-$3,000 to
Yes.
step away and strategize. We have some people who come on our retreats, and we do have that professional development component where we sit down and we talk about, like, what does your work plan look like for
Mhm.
2026 or 2027? Where is the balance? Work life
That's right.
balance is not a real thing. Um,
Right.
and so I think that's also why this report is also important, because I imagine I'm excited to see what comes of all of the data.
Me too.
But can you imagine, right? If you decided you wanted to be in corporate America and you go for a job and they fully offer you a package that really shows that they value you.
They care about your wellness, your well-being while
Yeah,
you're in
like
this space like that. That's
it,
rare, but
it is rare, but it's not impossible, and
exactly, exactly.
I have
Yeah,
seen, I've been in rooms where we are designing what their work life culture looks like.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I love that, but it is a lot of work. And so my hope is that this report will also make it a little bit easier for us to state the
Mhm,
case of
mhm.
why you should be offering it. And if especially if you have women of color in your leadership, but you don't have
Yeah,
none on your board,
that's right. That's right.
what?
That's
But
right.
so
Mhm,
there's just so many layers of it that I'm excited about the shifts. It is a hard
mhm.
season for many, many, many of us.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
also, I go back to the very simplest, sweetness is still there. It just
Mhm.
looks a little different. And
It does. Yeah, you got to
if,
be able to find those little moments
yeah,
of sweetness, you
yeah,
know? Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
It is,
Yeah.
it's there. So I want to close by just, reminding our listeners, because we're talking about this, and I know that anything that lifts Black women up, it lifts everyone else up,
Yeah.
right? And when we go into spaces, we are going into spaces to make the space better. That is what we are thinking about. Like when I got my master's in IO psychology. IO psychology, because I was like, I want to go in. I had been tired of working in these toxic workplace environments. And I noticed that every time I would be the one starting the corporate wellness plan
Mm-hmm.
and trying to, bring people together and camaraderie and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yes, I'm gonna go in and I want to do, and that's some hard work too,
Yeah.
right there
Yeah.
as well. But I want you to speak directly to the women that are listening right now, wherever she is, what do you want her to know about her own power in this moment?
Mm.
Because it's through that power that we are able to build new worlds and new ways of being, whether that's outside of that fishbowl or inside of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what I most want women to know, Black women, is one, grace. I think grace is so important. We lend it to everyone else before ourselves. And so I just want to say, please extend yourself grace, right? Because we're all still trying to figure it out, whether you are in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s and 70s. We're still trying to figure it out on some level. And I think that when we can muster up the courage to give ourselves grace, things shift. We are the shift, period. But I don't, and it's going to be different for all of us, right? Like the way that you find your courage to even consider the possibility, that's when the power happens, right? Because if you can just find a moment, we just need a little crack of you being able to consider, right? Like whether it's a second to be like, okay, well, let me just play around with the idea that I have this power. That's all you need. It starts with that. Because once you open it up just a little bit, it has no other choice. And so I really want to encourage us to find that moment. We love to say, "Oh, we don't have the time. I'm so busy. I'm doing this." But if you taking a shower, driving somewhere, riding somewhere, those are perfect moments to just allow yourself. I want us to just consider just for a second. Consider what it looks like to say yes to yourself, to consider what it looks like to take that trip, to spend that extra $5, to take a nap, like just consider and give yourself grace. We can do
Yeah,
it for everybody else, but we seem to put ourselves at the end of
that's
that list.
that's right. That's
Just
right.
move yourself up to the top. Or if you can't move yourself to the top yet, try it one by one till you get to the top. I
Mhm.
promise.
Look
Yeah.
for those little sweet spots as much as you
Yeah,
can
as
in
much
your
as you
life.
can.
Yes.
It could be
Mhm.
something as little as when I step outside, instead of just immediately on the go, right? Stop for a second. Take a deep breath in that fresh air. Like really breathe, right? Just find a you just need a second, just a second. It really just starts with a second. It's so simple, but we make it way more complicated than it has to be.
Thank you for that. Thank you for this entire conversation. Um, you are a treasure.
Oh, thank
You
you.
really, really are, Rakita. I truly admire everything that you're doing. And I want you all to know that I'm going to be sharing all of Rakita's contact information. You can follow her. How long is the survey open?
Yeah, the survey is open until the end of August. It's going to run alongside the actual convening. You know,
Okay,
push it
perfect.
far and wide, please, you all. 1,000
Yes.
voices is what we
Yes,
would
we
like
will
to
link that. We'll
capture.
link that as well in the show notes, so you guys can, if you fall into that criteria, please fill out the survey, share it with those that you know,
Mhm.
and stay connected to see what comes next and what
Yeah,
comes out of that data.
yeah,
So again, thank you for joining me today, Ricky. This was the perfect way, like I said, to end the season of the new lead order.
yeah. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.